Well, hello guys, and I'm definitely not late in talking about the best and worst books I read in 2024. Instead, I've got a different title for this video, and it is simply the books I enjoyed and didn't enjoy in 2024. Well, hello there, it's me suited in black / Janne Karneus, and I'm going to talk about, in no sequential order, nothing in particular, but aside from first of all the books I liked and then the books I didn't like, but individually, the books are in no particular order. So there's even the worst is in no particular order. So I am a little bit late with this video. I was supposed to do it in December. I didn't because I was a bit lazy and a bit out of energy. But nonetheless, let's get started with the video. So the first book that I liked in 2024 that I read right at the beginning of the year, which is now like a year ago from now, it's called My Brother's Husband, which is a manga by, I forgot the name of the author, but I'll show it right here. And this manga is about a widower who, a guy who loses a brother, and the husband of the widower of that brother comes to visit him and just try to connect with his with the brother of his deceased husband. And so, as you can expect, it's a bit of a gay kind of story. It's not about this brother falling in love with this guy, but it's just about like reconnections, and also talking about how homosexuality is very still a little bit of a taboo, I think, in Japan. But it's actually a really lovely story that I thought felt very human and very beautiful in a way. And the artwork I felt was also really just satisfying to look at and inspires my own graphic novels and manga. So yeah, I would say that it is one of the best books I read in 2024, but that's not the point of this video to say what was the best book of the year. But I definitely recommend this manga. It was really lovely, and I think you would really enjoy it. And then the next book I read, well, not in order, but the next book I want to talk about is called Oranges and Sunshine, which is based on a real event that happened, got into the news in the 1980s, and it's about a woman who interviews all these people who were once deported to Australia and treated so terribly that it became quite a scandal in a way. And so, as you can expect, this book is very sad, but also quite disturbing in some aspects, where it's like actual photos of all these cases and of Margaret Humphrey conducting all these investigations for these people. So it's actually really fascinating, but as you can expect, a bit unnerving in a way, because it shows how all these poor people were just treated terribly as children, and it really just paints a picture of how some of the worst secrets are really kept right towards the bottom of the iceberg. So it's quite unnerving to read, but it's really lovely, and it's really a fascinating story. And then another book I really liked reading was called The Silence of Animals, which is not really what the title suggests, but is more like a metaphor for how us humans are like animals and we're silenced because of acts of power that have haunted history, and for example the Nazis, and how all those events silenced us in a way, and that because of it, it's like a form of overpowering people and trying to keep us unable to talk about these events because we're so scared, we're so disturbed of what happened. So I think this is one of the most interesting. It shares some of the same threads as Straw Dogs from the book I read in 2022, and because it's by the same author. But it does have some similar things of it is a little bit against humanity, but it makes sense because a lot of humanity does revolve around like a power struggle and the aftermath of such actions. And then another book I actually liked reading was called Giovanni's Room, which is another homosexuality story. about a young man who falls in love with his bartender, but then I think because he's married but he starts to fall in love with this guy, but then things end quite tragically. And then it was quite a interesting, very fascinating kind of, it felt a bit like a soliloquy in a way, where it's just kind of the guy's experiences and thoughts and what he's going through and like his immediate responses to certain things. It was actually a really interesting book, and I think it's definitely worthy of being studied and being sort of talked about at length, of the kind of techniques it uses and all the kind of challenging thoughts and feelings and sexual kind of desires. And now on to some of the books I didn't really enjoy last year. So I didn't hate these books, but I certainly didn't enjoy them that much. The first one is obviously Boots. And this is the one I had to DNF because I just found it a bit too simple, a bit too bare bones even. I didn't really connect with anything about this book. It was a bit too skeletal, and it didn't really do anything to change the story of Puss in Boots. And I felt like it didn't have that much charm, and read too much like a generic kind of story, to be honest. And so yeah, unfortunately, this might be the book I didn't enjoy at all compared to the other books on my the books I didn't enjoy last year, because the next two books are actually ones I did mostly enjoy, but I'll explain why I didn't put them in what the books I enjoyed of 2024. And so thus the book I had to give up, didn't enjoy, but I like this book. I really like this book, but I had to put it down because it just got to a point where I was like, oh my goodness, it just goes on. And that's of course Salem's Lot by Stephen King. It's a good book. I like Salem's Lot, but it just went on forever and it just kept going on and on and on. I was like, oh my gosh, just get to the next bit already. And I was like, it's such a well done story as well, but for that reason, I'm so frustrated with Salem's Lot, because I wanted it to at least get to the next interesting part of the story a bit more promptly and a bit more smoothly, but it didn't. It went on and it went on, and I'm like, no. And when I put it down, I was just gutted, because I was like, this is a good book. Why did I have to do this? And I'm like, no. So for that reason, that's why I put it in books I didn't enjoy, is because I like it, but I've explained why I didn't enjoy it ultimately, because it just waffled. And then the last book that I didn't really enjoy that much was called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And unfortunately this book I think was a bit too elusive for me. I didn't quite understand it that much. So I was actually reading this book and I was like, what am I reading? I didn't really understand what it was trying to say, so I actually even had to look it up and see what people thought of this book. And it's about basically being able to being like an alchemist, where you can turn something that was rusty and not good into gold. And it's meant to be like a metaphor of how you can turn like a bad experience into a good one, or into something precious. And it's a beautiful message, really great for young adults and young people. But I feel like I can't reiterate that. And also because I tried to give this book to Mum to read, and she just kind of read it from the beginning, so I lost where I was. So I was like, to be honest, I can't be bothered going back and reading through it again. So that's the main reason why I stopped reading it, was because I actually forgot where I went up to. But oh well, things happen, but there's not much you can do about it. And that will conclude for today's best and worst books I read this year, but not quite. But yeah, I didn't read that much last year. I was just too exhausted and didn't have much energy or time to do so. But yeah, I'll try to make this a bit better this year. I doubt it. Like it'll probably be the same amount of books. But I will try to at least make more YouTube videos for you guys. So yeah, that will do for this video, and maybe expect a review or maybe a thoughts on some of the books I am currently reading at the moment. So look forward to that. So you know the drill. Until we meet again, I'll be waiting.